Travis Garrison had earned his moniker. His team, noticing that he could spot an enemy from a mile away, had coined it while they were deployed in Iraq together. When Travis was finally back in his home on American soil, the instincts that had saved him and others in Iraq immediately kicked in. Something was wrong. Back in the stifling heat of the Iraqi desert, all Travis could think about was going home. He hated what his life had become over the last year, and he hated everything about being in the desert. It was hard to imagine that he had said goodbye to his wife more than a year ago. Travis knew that his country needed him, and he would do everything in his power to protect it. Although he always put on a strong front, his heart ached underneath the veneer. He longed for his wife and family. Writing letters to her made it more bearable, but it couldn't replace his wife's physical presence. Travis could see his peers taking strain around him for the same reasons. Everyone there was aching for their home. They took solace in the fact that their time in the scorching desert was almost over. Travis just wanted two things. He wanted a big hug from his beloved wife, and he wanted to eat a massive all-American hamburger. But there was a terrible weight on Travis' heart. He tried to believe that everything was all right, but he hadn't received any letters from his wife for the last 3 months. Although he did get letters from his mother, Travis was concerned about Casey. He couldn't stand the feeling of not knowing what was going on. His mother hadn't mentioned anything that would explain his wife's behavior in her letters, so she must be okay. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stop something from gnawing at him. One evening, completely out of the blue, he was playing a game of cards with his teammates when he received a phone call. Rushing over, he took it and almost burst into tears when he heard who was on the other end of the line. "Casey, how are you?" he cried. "I've been so worried about you." "Hey, how are you?" she said quickly. "I hear you're coming home soon. I just wanted to know exactly when so I can have everything ready for you." Travis felt like crying with relief at the sound of his wife's familiar voice. "I'll be back on Saturday," he said excitedly. "Okay, great," she said tersely. "I'll make sure there is food, and I'll pick up some beer on my way home. See you then. Have a good trip." After they said their goodbyes, Travis had a weird feeling come over him. She didn't say that she loved him or missed him. She sounded very distant, and he sensed that she was very distracted. Hearing his wife's despondence only made him feel uneasy. They hardly spoke for 5 minutes, and he didn't even have a chance to ask her why she hadn't been writing back to him. Something was wrong. He could feel it. And as the day finally arrived for them to board the aircraft back to America, Travis wasn't feeling so excited anymore. However, as soon as they landed and Travis felt the cool breeze on his face, he lit up with joy. He was finally home, and he knew his family was waiting for him, looking at all the soldiers reuniting with their loved ones. And then he heard it. "Travis!" It was Casey. She was waiting for him. Travis's face lit up in an instant. He didn't think that Casey would be there after the strange phone call, but he was so glad that she was. She ran into his arms. It was something out of a movie, but Travis had no idea what he was about to discover. When they pulled up the driveway, Travis was so happy to see his house in one piece. It warmed his heart. All he needed now was some food and an ice-cold beer to wash it down. He walked over to the refrigerator to grab a cold one while Casey was preparing some food. But as he flung the bottle cap into the trash, he noticed something. There were some discarded fast food boxes in the trash. However, it looked like there were far too many for one person. Travis couldn't shake the odd feeling that something was off. He decided to ask her directly if she had been alone. "Hey, Case, did you have anyone over lately? A get-together or a girls' night?" he asked. She turned around and looked at him in confusion and then replied, No, not recently. I've been so busy with work that I haven't had time to see anyone." Travis's heart sank. He knew she wasn't telling the truth at that point. What was Casey doing behind his back? He was well aware of Army wives who chose to move on while their husbands were stationed. Was this the case with them? He realized that Casey had not been alone during his year-long deployment. Someone else had probably been sharing their home and perhaps even their bed. With trembling hands, Travis tried to make sense of it all. He recalled the strange phone call and Casey's distant behavior. The missing letters that had gone unanswered now seemed like ominous silence. He had just returned home, and he wanted a peaceful reunion. Instead, he decided to bide his time and observe a little longer. Over the next few days, Travis carefully watched his wife's actions. Casey was affectionate and attentive, as if trying to make up for something, but it only deepened Travis's unease. One evening, he couldn't hold back any longer. He broached the subject gingerly. "Casey, while I was away, did you have anyone else here? I noticed some things that seemed off." Casey's eyes widened and her face paled. She stammered for a moment before finally admitting, "Travis, I had a friend over sometimes. It was just for the company, I promise. You were gone for so long and I was lonely." Travis's heart sank even further. "A friend? Just for the company?" Casey began to cry. "Travis, please, it was nothing more than that. I missed you terribly, and I was just trying to cope. I promise there was nothing romantic." Travis knew he needed to sort through his feelings before they could move forward. He asked for some time to think and left the house, taking a long walk to clear his head. Travis thought about his commitment to his family, his love for Casey, and his duty to his country. It wasn't an easy decision, but he decided he needed more concrete answers. He would hire a private investigator to look into the matter discreetly. The investigation uncovered more than Travis had expected. Casey had indeed been seeing another man while he was away, and their relationship had gone beyond mere companionship. The revelation shattered Travis. He confronted Casey with the evidence and the painful truth, leading to a tearful and heated confrontation. The marriage that had once been the foundation of his life was now crumbling beneath him. He made the difficult decision to end his marriage with Casey. It was a painful and emotional process, but he couldn't ignore the fundamental breach of trust that had occurred during his deployment. He faced the difficult task of rebuilding his life and finding a way to move forward after the heartbreak and betrayal he had experienced. Travis leaned on the support of his fellow soldiers, who had become a second family during his time in Iraq. They offered him camaraderie and advice, helping him through this challenging period of his life.